We wanted to do a video for you to talk about one of the main components of designing a radical life, and that is this idea of experiment. So one of the things that most people think about is when they're making a decision or trying something that they want to do, they think of it like as black and white, like it's a decision you have to make and you have to go all in, and it makes it really overwhelming to explore all your possibilities and your ideas. And so we were doing some goal setting for the last 5 years, and we heard this idea of like, oh, well, think of it as an experiment. We were like, oh my God, that's amazing.
The cool thing is it doesn't put so much pressure on it. It's just like, this is just an experiment. And some people are like, I'm gonna go and live in this country, and they go and they do it, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But this way you can kind of get, I think, like a little taste of it. And yeah, see if you like it. Are these really my values? Is there a place you've always wanted to live? Who knows? Go and test it out. Just like little experiments for little periods of time, and you can come back. And I think once you've done that, you get a sense of what you like and you don't like. And next year you're like, well, let's go down this path.
We call it assess and adjust, right? So first of all, an experiment is like, for our purpose, it's like a prototype. So we're using like design thinking, design theory, and if you're going to design like a product or a place or whatever, you would create prototypes and test them. So it's something that you want to test out that's a possible thing that you would like to do in designing your ideal life. They're important because they're small, like tiny commitments that you can investigate that will give you, like Jeremy said, feedback. And then what you do is you do the experiment, and then you formally sort of sit down like we would do at the end of every experiment, and then we say like, okay, let's make some assessments. So we've experimented living in different countries, living in different cities.
Countries, different time zones. That was crazy. There's another video.
We could do that.
We'll do on that, but that was, working in
We learned
Europe.
a lot. Because we had a fantasy, like, let's live in Europe. And then we were like, wait, we don't want to work from 3 to 11, right, to do America time zone. So basically, an experiment is an amazing way to help you design your radical life. And this series that we put together of videos is going to explain some of the experiments that we did. Before we do that, I want to give you one little tip about designing an experiment. There are no mistakes. So even if something is like not cool, not fun, not what you thought, instead of going like, oh my God, that was a disaster, you're like, awesome, I learned something. And then you can undergo a formal assess and adjust, and then really get clear on what specifically didn't work. And then you just go from there. So I've been kind of thinking about it lately as like skiing moguls, right? So you're like, yeah, that worked, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. And you're just kind of going through. And the other thing is, when you're doing it, if you think of it as no mistakes, then it can be fun.
I'm just going to end on like, what we're doing right now is an experiment, and this part of it sucks. We're trying to get through it, and we're going to get through it. And yeah, on the outside, it probably looks like we're in this beautiful environment. And of course we are, but there's a lot of things that didn't go right in this particular experiment. And we want it to be the way that we want it. So why shouldn't it be that way? So yeah, it's a really cool process. And, I've been sitting at home for like 10 years on the computer researching things, and it doesn't really get me anywhere. So this is the way to do it. Is just get out there and do it.
So here's some of our experiments.